So we are a nation of immigrants. We came here in different ways. We came to the United States in different ways, but we share a uniquely American identity, the so-called melting pot of peoples and cultures. And ingrained in that identity is an embrace of mobility, a belief that rather than suffer injustice or misfortune, one should just pick up and leave, go someplace else, find a better life. This was the belief that drove my grandfather to leave the segregated South, South Carolina, around the beginning of the 20th century. He moved his family to California, where my father was born, because he found that for an African American in that time in the United States, the racism in California was less brutal and less virulent. So he just picked up and left. My grandfather's no longer alive, but if I, as a young boy, had told him, my grandfather, who was a descendant of slaves, that I would one day become the first African American to serve as the United States ambassador to the European Union, I'm sure he would have said to me, well, that is a laudable goal, but probably not attainable. A nice dream to have. Then, if I had told him that I would have been appointed to this job by the first African American president of the United States, he would have told me I'd completely lost my mind. Completely. I think there are clearly other elements of American society that I've thought about that I think promote integration of immigrant peoples in the United States and help counter feelings of alienation and marginalization. I think perhaps the most important of these elements is a fundamental belief in American society about the possibility of rebirth and renewal in America. What many refer to as the promise of the American dream, the attainability of the American dream. Now, I don't want to sugarcoat this. Surely, as we all know, we have a painful history in America of discrimination against minorities that is still manifest to this day. Well, the United States has by no means solved the problem of integrating immigrant and minority populations, of bringing people into the mainstream, especially those who feel marginalized or different. But we are, above all, a nation of immigrants, and that imbues our culture with a sense of hopefulness, the promise of a new life, a brighter future. And I would argue that it is this hope, this belief that the future will always be better, that is itself, or can be, an antidote to extremism. A long time ago, in 1782, a French immigrant to the United States by the name of Jean de Crèvecoeur observed that America is a country founded by people who traveled across an ocean to escape tyranny and persecution and were eager to leave their ethnic and religious feuds behind them. I think there might be something to that. Certainly this is reflected in our national motto, which is inscribed on every dollar bill. You'll see the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, which means from many, one. And so I should probably end here, because I think there is no better symbol of America's willingness to embrace people of different races and backgrounds than the man who occupies the White House today. As he himself has said, I'm the son of a black man from Kenya and a white woman from Kansas. I've gone to some of the best schools in America and lived in one of the world's poorest countries. I am married to a black American who carries within her blood the blood of slaves and slave owners, an inheritance we pass on to our two precious daughters. I have brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, uncles, and cousins of every race and every hue, scattered across 3 continents, and for as long as I live, I will never forget that in no other country on earth is my story even possible.